So I'm Jon Clarke.
And I'm Sarah Clarke.
And we've been going to Quabog for about 10 years together and married 6.5.
Yeah. Yeah, so we both luckily came from homes that had some really good financial principles taught to us. As you saw last week, my parents, Gary and Brenda, they had their struggles, ups and downs through their financial journey, but overall, they really instilled a lot of teaching on how to budget, our envelope system. I was doing that from when I was getting, my $5 allowance. So coming into our marriage, Jon you had that coming from your side in a little bit different ways, but once we got together, it was very easy for us to build a budget, and finances have just been something we're able to talk about pretty easily.
And our journey started when we were in college and we were both pursuing business degrees. So the way that we approached money and the language we used around it was very similar because we were being taught the same things by the same professors. So that allowed us to really get on the same page pretty quickly, even coming into when we were just engaged and looking at our simulated budgets for when we were going to be married. So my dad never called money a slave, but he always equated it to a tool. And when he was teaching me when I was around 15 about the way that he thought I should handle money when I became an adult, he always said a tool is really dangerous if used incorrectly. And the bigger the tool, the more powerful it is, the more it can hurt you. So if you don't have a lot of money or you're not focusing on it a lot, it can still be a tool like a hammer, you'll whack your thumb. But if it's a big tool, it could be like a steamroller and it could completely crush your car, ruin your house, ruin your life. So if you're not careful, it's a tool that can do a lot of damage because money can be that powerful and it can ruin your life and it can ruin other people's lives. But if you're using it well, a tool properly applied can build your life, it can build things for other people, it can allow you to bless them. And so just keep that in mind. And it always stuck with me because it's such a visual example that let me really see what he was talking about. So that feels like it's in the same vein as that quote. So for our financial journey, the biggest thing when we first got married was our student loans. We both graduated with some student debt, and combined it was a pretty significant sum of money. And so it was a major focal point for all of our discussions around money. And it got to the point where it was too much of a focal point. It was a stressor. It led to anxiety. It wasn't a healthy thing that was happening. And we didn't have true contentment because even though we were being diligent and we were being what we thought was smart with our money, we were so focused on that we weren't really being generous the way we should have. We weren't enjoying the early years of our marriage with each other the same way that we could have because we were so locked in on that. And when we finally, about 4 years into being married, were able to really understand, we can be diligent without being anxious. We can be content and be smart at the same time. And that was a huge moment for us. And we had a long conversation where it kind of crystallized, and that was a major turning point for us to be able to start to work towards contentment instead of just, we're being diligent, doing the right things, and eventually we'll be content from that, I hope.
And through that process, once we made those decisions, once life happens and Jon lost his job, so we were in a much tighter situation. Luckily, we had all these this roadmap in place for our finances, and we were able to get through it. But through all of that, one important thing that has never been a question in our financial journey is tithing. And we've just seen through Jon being unemployed, and I had a moment of unemployment where we tithed through that, and God blessed us. That's just something we have seen happen for us, and we're just so grateful for how God has blessed us through the harder times and the good times.
Yeah, it's much harder to be appreciative of God's blessing when things are thin, but his provision was definitely there, and it's so obvious to see. It was obvious to see at the time, but in hindsight it just becomes so much more clear without the stress of the situation around it.
So one final thought that I have is just like, we're both of us we're really blessed with coming from backgrounds that had good financial influence and teaching in our lives. So we've had those foundational pieces, but I just want to encourage that, like, what Quaboag's offering through Connect Groups and Financial Peace University, like, even if you didn't have that foundation growing up, or if you're a young person and just, want to get on the right track, like, this is your moment for building that foundation, whether you're single, married, young, old. Like, this is a great chance to just start fresh and start getting on a path of financial stewardship.
And if you're married, getting on that same page is so important. The times that we have made bad financial decisions have been the times we weren't on the same page. We rarely, thanks to our upbringing, had moments of ignorance. It was more we weren't in lockstep, and that caused the problem. If you're single and you don't have somebody to be in lockstep with, you have the church community instead that you can use to bounce ideas off of and look at decisions with and to form your plan with. And that's something that, even when I was an adult but we weren't married yet, would have been a great resource to help me have an even better, firmer foundation.